am I live? It told me I was streaming, and then it said go live. So I was like, well, which is it? YouTube. Um, so hi, if you're here and you're live, please give me a little chat in the chat so that I know who's here. And I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. I just want to make sure there's some people here. Oh, hi. Hi, Beep Boop. That's a fun name. And can you hear me well also? Because I don't want to be figuring things out for long. Hello, hello. Hi. Oh, there's people. Hi. Oh, fantastic. Okay. All right, friends. We've got a lot to talk about. So I haven't done any, sorry. I didn't touch up my makeup before streaming today, so I'm like personally distracted by that. But if you can help me, or if you can forgive me for being distracted. Oh, good, good. Loud and clear. Good. Okay, thank you guys. Yay, thanks for being here. Okay. Oh, you're all wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Get your drinks, get your snacks, get cozy. Don't know how long I'm going to be here, but it's not going to be a short amount of time. Let's just put it that way. So, I haven't done any content on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case because I wanted to wait until the verdict came out, because I was very like, I feel like every day it keeps tipping in a different direction in a way. Well, thank you. So now that we got the verdict, I have to say, well, here, is anybody unfamiliar with with what's going on? I feel like I should do a recap just for the people who are maybe who watch this on the replay, or who otherwise are just looking for a summary because they didn't pay attention to the like millions of hours of testimony, because it's been a lot. But basically, oh yeah, happy Pride, June 1st, happy Pride, everybody. Woo. I nothing. Ignore me. Okay. So I have like 7 million thoughts. I'm sorry. My brain is going crazy. So, basically in 2018, December of 2018, Amber Heard put out an article. She wrote it with the ACLU. It was published in the Washington Post. It was an op-ed opinion piece. And in that article, she described herself as a victim of abuse and somebody who, well, here I have my documents ready. She described herself, the title of the piece was, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." There were 2 versions of the article. One was online, the other was in print, and that was the title for the online version, at least that that Johnny saw. So she made a point in the article, and there's evidence in the case that shows that the lawyers were thinking about taking this out, but she said, can we please keep this in there? That she was talking about her experience from 2 years prior. And 2 years prior, she was married to Johnny Depp. So Johnny Depp is like, what? Anybody who knows anything about us, like all their, friends and connections and business professionals in the Hollywood industry especially, who know anything about them, are going to take this first person account from this victim of abuse, allegedly, very seriously. And he has, in his opinion, and now substantiated by a jury verdict, he has faced repercussions because of these statements from her. So he sued her over that. basically for damages. The case started in 2019 and it's finally gone to trial over the past few weeks. During that trial, Amber thought it was a good idea to countersue Johnny because I think that she knew she was going to lose, honestly. And we'll get into why in a minute. But yes, Mur Perez. There's so many details to this and I'm trying to just like glaze over a lot. But yes, 2 years before this op-ed that she wrote in 2018, back in 2016, she also was photographed outside the courthouse where she had gone to file for, I don't know if that was the day that she was filing for divorce or if it was the day that she was filing for the restraining order. But either way, she was photographed coming out of the courthouse with a bruise on her face that is debatable in my opinion, but we'll get into it. I know, let me start off by saying, if you're completely unfamiliar with this case coming in completely cold, I believe victims, which is why I am glad that Johnny won this case, because I believe that Amber has done a lot of misconstruing and a lot of hiding things and a lot of twisting of the narrative to make it look like she's a victim, when in reality, if you look at the evidence, she is the abuser. And now a jury has upheld that opinion in a court of law. Oh, thank you, the TRO. So as far as Amber did the counterclaim while this trial was ongoing. I think it was very recently. I think it was like during the past few weeks, like while it was like in court. So her counterclaim, I'm just going to I have my documents, you know. Okay, so Johnny has several lawyers. Johnny Depp has several lawyers. One of them was for a time, I don't know if he still is, was Adam Waldman. And he made a few statements to a few press outlets. Daily Mail, the Blast is one of them. People, I don't know if he said something to people or if he was referring to what. There was a cover, there was a People magazine cover with Amber's face like bruised, but it was, to me it looked like a photo shoot, but whatever. Okay. So he made a few different statements to a few different press sources, and because Adam was Johnny's lawyer, and this is where like I can see in the most technical sense where Amber's could be coming from here, in that like lawyers very often speak on behalf of their clients. That is often like one of the main things that they do. But right now we don't really have a connection that was one of Adam's responsibilities in his role as Johnny's lawyer. There's a lot there, because when he testified in this trial, Adam Waldman couldn't say much at all because of attorney-client privilege. So there was only a little bit that we could go off of. I'm acting like I was in the jury. I was not in the jury. But there was only so much that people could go off of based on Adam's testimony, based on the statements that he made, based on the alleged like results of his statements. But he did make some bold statements. I think that Johnny's camp is saying, sure, he made these statements, but he wasn't speaking on Johnny's behalf. But the fact that he was hired and retained as Johnny's lawyer at that time makes that debatable, makes that a debatable point. And that is the point that indeed Amber's team did debate. So that's how we ended up with the verdict that we got, which was after 6 weeks of very vivid trial and testimony and deposition, Johnny had alleged 3 counts of defamation against Amber Heard, and he won every single count. Amber had alleged, I believe, 3 counts of defamation against Johnny, coming via Johnny's lawyer, Adam Waldman, and she won 1 of those. So, oh, hi from Greece. So it was a 3-1. Not that Amber didn't win anything, but she kind of lost the more important one. So, and it's been a fascinating case to just watch unfold. I've been working on a video for you guys. It's coming. It's going to be incredibly long. You have no idea what you're in for. It's on its way, but I've been working on it. And I've also at the same time been like watching, just like consuming everything I could of this court case because I found it fascinating. I've listened to, I think I've watched, hold on, I wrote down, yeah, I've listened to or watched almost every single, oh, yeah, I agree. Waldman definitely made some rough statements. It's tough because with Amber being such a imperfect, but I see what you're saying, Lumiere. Okay, my brain. So I've watched or listened to almost every single testimony and deposition in this trial, just out of my own pure interest. After everything was handed over to the jury, I then re-listened to Johnny's and Amber's testimonies for a second time. I didn't get to their rebuttals, or their rebuttals. They both went back on the stand during rebuttal, and I haven't gotten there yet because I was in the middle of watching Amber's testimony about what happened after the whole Australia incident when the verdict was announced today. So I'm trying to say I'm nose deep in all of this stuff. So I'm trying to come at it with a very, educated stance, which is why, again, I like to wait until all the information is out there before I put out anything of my own. So I'm seeing in the comments, yes. So the relationship, again, if you're not aware, if you haven't seen too much, the relationship between Johnny and Amber was definitely toxic. I think that what's worth considering, so there was a really good article that I saw about this. Like, I was doing a little bit of like quick research before live streaming for you guys, where I was just looking up a couple of things, and Vox put out a good article about the whole entire situation, and I put it in the description of this live stream. So I recommend, if you're like really new to this and you want a good recap of everything, check out their article. I really liked it because it was good and like balanced and well-rounded. And one of the things that they talk about is Darvo, which is not the same as, sorry, I'm reading it right now as I'm about to read it to you. Darvo is not the same as two people in a relationship being abusive toward each other. I think that that's what Amber's team wants, is for us to be so confused and so feel like this is so muddy that it becomes exactly what we're saying. Like, oh, it was toxic. They were both abusive toward each other. They were both mean to each other. But I just don't think that that's what it is. Because the thing is, when there's one person who's always provoking, the argument never happens if nobody starts it, And I feel like regardless of what Johnny and Amber said, because their testimony highly conflicted, they have very different remembrances of what went on in their relationship. So when their memories and their retellings of these stories are wildly different, we have to look at the evidence. And the evidence includes a lot of recordings. And in the recordings, you can hear Amber doing a lot of instigating. And when there's one person who's always instigating, I have a really hard time calling the other person's reaction to their like toxic, abusive vitriol also abuse, you know? But I mean, it's a discussion to be had, but if you look at the I'm no psychologist, I'm no counselor, I'm no doctor. Also, everything I'm saying is an allegation and a speculation, and I'm no expert on nothing, okay? But if you look at the way that abuse victims behave as a whole, and then you combine that with what it's like to be raised as a male in America and have all of these toxic masculinity expectations put upon you, I think that's how you get Johnny Depp. Because, you know, he's a very, you know, standard dude. Tough guy. He's in action films. He's, you know, a musician. He has tattoos. He's like very cool, very slick, very like gritty and tough, you know, in terms of appearance and how he comes off. He doesn't seem like somebody who you would think was like a beta or a weakling or in any way would be, oh yeah, I bet his wife hits, you know, like hopefully we're not thinking that about anybody, but he doesn't seem like somebody who would be the victim of anything. Like you would think if somebody came up to pickpocket him, he would rah, because he's a tough guy, you know? So he doesn't fit the profile of what we might recognize as a like victim or the victim like personality, because when you're raised as a guy in America, they talked a bit in the trial about what it means to be a Southern gentleman. And I mean, because he was raised in Kentucky, but he was raised in Kentucky by abusive parents. There's like all these factors. By abusive parents who were his mother especially was physically abusive, mentally, psychologically, emotionally abusive. And his father would react by being stoic and in a way submitting to what his mom, whatever she was on about, you know. So I think that if that's what it means to be a Southern gentleman, I think Johnny probably had a resistance to that. I think that being a Southern gentleman does not quite line up with the kind of toxic masculinity, at least the tropes that I know of it. So if you're, what I'm trying to say is if you're Johnny, you have all of these conflicting ideas and expectations about what kind of person you're supposed to be. And you can hear in the recordings, Amber says that kind of stuff. She's like, well, every other guy that I've been with is like a man and they'll handle it when there's a problem and they'll stand up and take care of it. And because she had a big problem with him walking away whenever there was a fight or an argument breaking out. So what I'm trying to say is like, it's hard for me to look at Johnny in this scenario that he's in and say that his reaction to her, which also in a way is a reaction to everything else he's been conditioned with, but that his reaction to her is the same as like equally abusive or like a toxic relationship. They're not equal. They're not the same. A reaction to somebody's abusive action is self-defense, we came up with that term for that reason, you know? And I don't begrudge somebody for self-defense nearly as much as I do for purposeful offense. But I mentioned Darvo before. This is when I said that I think that Amber and her team want to muddy the water and make you think that it's this mutually abusive relationship. I'm just going to read this, and then I'm going to look at the comments because I had to flip away to a different page so that I didn't get too caught up in the comments and not finish my point. Sorry, guys, my ADD is not helping tonight. So the definition of Darvo. Darvo, D-A-R-V-O, it's an acronym. Darvo refers to a reaction perpetrators of wrongdoing, particularly sexual offenders, may display in response to being held accountable for their behavior. DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. So it's like 3 steps: deny, attack, and reverse the victim and the offender. The perpetrator or offender may deny the behavior, attack the individual doing the confronting, and reverse the roles of victim and offender such that the perpetrator assumes the victim role and turns the true victim, or the whistleblower, into an alleged offender. This occurs, for instance, when an actually guilty perpetrator assumes the role of the falsely accused and attacks the accuser's credibility and blames the accuser of being the perpetrator of a false accusation. So I like reading this. I immediately think of several different things that Amber said in the recordings. Again, like, I'm not even thinking, what's weird about Amber's testimony is that I don't remember the words she was saying from the stand as much as I remember her tone of voice and her expressions and her, because it was all very expressive, but whatever she was trying to say didn't come through as easily, like the message. Anyway, so in the recordings, what she says in the recordings, I have a better recollection of, because she's speaking more straightforwardly there and more honestly in those recordings. And this sounds like much more of that. Like, for example, there's this recording where they're having a conversation or argument or whatever, and Johnny is going to leave to go cool down and then come back. And Amber starts saying, "It upsets me so much, it stresses me out," paraphrasing, "It stresses me out so much when you leave. It's going to make it worse. It's killing me when you leave." So she's turning herself into a victim and turning him into an offender because he wants to leave for a few minutes or an hour even, gather his thoughts and his feelings, and then come back to the conversation at a different time, you know? So it just like, it lines up with that. I'm going to go back to the comments. I want to see what you're all are saying because I'm way behind. She won on a technicality. Sure, probably. Hold on. She technically got, yeah. This whole relationship was a train wreck. Yeah, due to something needing complete control. Sorry, I usually go back up too far. Right. Sorry. Some of this stuff, if I'm not reading it out loud, mostly I agree with it, and it's in line with, yeah, one of her words in the stand was, it was weird for her to see him crying. Yep, because she had never seen another man cry, not even her father at her grandma's funeral. Yeah, so Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is a good point, too. Plus, JD was always open about his substance issues. Amber denied him medication he desperately needed. She took over treatment, not being a medical professional at all. Yeah, so that was a really big, like, weird element of this whole relationship in the trial for me, I think, was like the discussion around the use of drugs and alcohol, especially looking at like the difference between how Johnny was asked about it and how Amber was asked about it, because they were both using tons of shit the whole fucking time. Like, and I think that Amber's team just like completely wanted to pivot away and around and just avoid that fact. And Johnny's team just kind of had bigger fish to fry, so they didn't go down that road as far as they could. But Amber had like a whole like section of her wedding that was gonna be she called it like cuddle puddle for her and her girlfriends to hang out and have mushrooms, like, and wine. There's so much use of all the words that YouTube is gonna ban me for saying, or is gonna demonetize this video for saying. But how do I censor this? E and C and, well, and alcohol and we Mary Jane, and anything, everything. I'm literally not sure if I can say anything out loud, but everything. So both of them were doing it, but Amber was so very concerned about Johnny getting sober without her taking on any of the sobriety herself. They talked about it a little bit, but they could have talked about it more, you know? Like, the hypocrisy is very frustrating. Because it's a huge task to sober up, especially if you're somebody like Johnny mentioned, who he started taking his mother's nerve pills when he was like 11 or something. Like, by the time he's, in his 40s and 50s, it's like ingrained into your system because you've grown up on it, That's, and I don't know Amber's history because she didn't talk about it. She didn't talk about her history with drug use. Although every now and then she did mention it, but it was just briefly in passing. Oh yeah, I took happy drugs or whatever. And I'm like, so you took them too? So it's not just him? So both of you need to work on this? Miss 1 or 2 bottles of wine a day? Like, what? The narrative painting is ridiculous with this. So it's like, could the substances have impacted both of them in how they perceived things that were going on and the way that things escalated at various times? And let me also say two things. One, Johnny makes a point several times throughout his testimony to say Amber would get upset with him when she perceived that he was using certain drugs, which makes me think his subtext there is he had gotten sober later on in the relationship after they went to the island in like 2014 or 2015 to do the sobriety like detox. He had detoxed. He had not gone back, but Amber used to think that he had, when in fact he was just actually having a bad day and was actually mad at her about something she actually did. Like, not everything is a drug-fueled hallucination. Sometimes you actually are a bitch. Like, that's just, I be doing it too. It happens. But then at the same time, also, I really, really liked the testimony of Dr. Shannon Curry. If you have not watched anybody's entire testimony, I highly recommend that you watch hers. She's a psychologist who evaluated Amber. Also, by the way, make sure that if you're going to watch anybody's testimony, make sure you watch all 3 parts. There is direct examination, cross-examination, and then redirect for any deposition or testimony. I'm not sure if the depositions have redirect, but for us legal plebeians, it's basically the same thing, an interview with the lawyers. Just make sure that you watch all of the parts. It helps with clarification and stuff. But anyway, Dr. Shannon Curry, she was talking a lot about the symptoms of borderline personality disorder, which she diagnosed Amber with as a result of their psychological evaluation that they did for Amber. And borderline personality disorder involves long periods of very high highs and then long periods of very low lows. But not in the same way as bipolar. It has less to do with pure mood, and it has more to do with your perception of how you see things. So when I hear Amber talking constantly in her testimony about the 2 sides of Johnny, how sometimes he's so great and they're so in love, and then the next minute he's a monster and he's beating her, and it to me, I'm like, well, is that the case, or are you seeing things differently because of the phases that your personality is going through? And tell me if I'm wrong. You know what? Just to make 100% sure, because I don't want to misstate anything about borderline personality disorder. I just want to make 100%. And, I'm looking at the freaking internet. Yes. So it impacts the way you think and feel about yourself and others. So it's not the same kind of mood thing. It's more of everything is a brain thing, but hi, hello. Stop it. Sorry. Okay. So, I'm reading from the mayoclinic.org, which I feel like is a good, solid source. Borderline personality disorder is a mental health disorder that impacts the way you think and feel about yourself and others, causing problems functioning in everyday life. It includes self-image issues, difficulty managing emotions and behavior, and a pattern of unstable relationships, which Amber does have, but we're not going to get into too much. With borderline personality disorder, you have an intense fear of abandonment or instability. And abandonment was a big point. The fear of abandonment was a big point that Camille, the lawyer, really honed in on during cross-examination and rebuttal. And this is where I, as a mental health person, I'm going through my own diagnostic process. Mental health is not something to be trivialized in any way. I have a hard time with how the legal system treats mental health disorders and diagnoses, and it's complicated, I can't blame Amber's BPD for doing this, because Amber's BPD lives inside of Amber. So she did these things. That's where the saying of regardless of your intention, the impact of your actions, regardless of what she thought in the moment she was doing, the impact was this abusiveness toward Johnny, So it's tough. That's a whole other discussion as well. I think there could be some improvement there. But anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it's hard for me to watch a lawyer, like, really dig in on something, her fear of abandonment, that is like a symptom of her psychological disorder. So, like, it's not necessarily her fault. But what is her fault is not recognizing the fear of abandonment, not doing anything about it, not seeing it when it pops up and saying, wait a minute, maybe I'm overreacting here, like, and she has all the means in the world to access therapy, to access diagnostics, to access all this stuff. So, it's, anyway, sorry, this is a complicated case because it's addiction and mental health. It's so complicated. Okay. With borderline personality disorder, you have an intense fear of abandonment or instability, and you may have difficulty tolerating being alone. Yet inappropriate anger, impulsiveness, and frequent mood swings may push others away, even though you want to have loving and lasting relationships. Symptoms. Just kind of different ways of saying the same things that we talked about. Wide mood swings lasting from a few hours to a few days, which can include intense happiness, irritability, shame, or anxiety. So this is, if we're talking between bipolar and borderline, bipolar mood swings, are much longer than a few days. Like, they're time periods of highs and lows. Whereas we're talking about with borderline, wide mood swings lasting from a few hours to a few days, which can include intense happiness, irritability, shame, or anxiety. So if every few days Amber is experiencing a different Johnny, the change might not be Johnny. The change might be her mood and how she's experiencing the world because of the mood swings. And not that she can necessarily control that about her, but if she's been misdiagnosed this whole time, and if she's apparently just like disregarding Dr. Curry's diagnosis, it can really have an impact on your sense of reality, on your grounding to the world. If every few days or even every few hours, things are so different for you, like, this is the part of me that's such a, like, I don't want to say I'm an empath, Shane Dawson over here, but I can't look at this stuff and just say she's a bad person, because nobody is purely bad or purely good, and she's obviously dealing with a lot of stuff. He is obviously dealing with a lot of stuff. That's why I don't think it's right to say that the relationship was toxic. I don't think that they were toxic. I'll allow toxic, but I don't think it's fair to say that both of them were abusive toward each other, because I think that requires intention, and I don't think that Johnny was intending to abuse Amber as much as he was intending to self-defend and get himself out of the house, one of the symptoms of borderline, real quick: inappropriate, intense anger, such as frequently losing your temper, being sarcastic or bitter, and having physical fights. If that's not Amber Heard, I don't know what is. So it just, yeah, it's hard to see somebody who's very clearly struggling with their mental health, who's in denial of a diagnosis that really looks like it fits them, therefore is not taking the steps to treat that part of themselves, and therefore is self-destructing their own life and their own happiness, and now is in court in front of the whole world being exposed as this person. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, like, regardless of all that backstory and all of your intentions, the impact of your actions still matters, and you still have to own up to it and take responsibility for it. And, you know, you can change moving forward, but everything behind you, you still have to clean up that mess. You can stay neat and tidy going forward, but this mess isn't going to disappear without you going through with the broom, you know? All right, let me look back at the chat. Hi, what? Freaking yelling at me about nothing. Not you, the... Oh, yay! I have a few EDB fans. I'm a big EDB fan. Okay, we should be held at yes, okay. Yeah, those of you who who are summing things up in the chat, love you because I'm real bad at being concise. Yeah, I hate you, don't leave me. Yeah. Hi, law nerds. Yeah. Dr. Curry and Camille make me swoon, not gonna lie. Same. I'm so glad that Ben Chu and Camille like got their moment in this because they both seem like genuinely nice people. That's the crazy thing. Like all the people that Johnny surrounds himself with, even his legal team, are just such nice people. And they were the prosecutors. They were the ones who are supposed to be saying, you are a bad person, you did this. They're supposed to be throwing accusations. And like they did, but they're real nice. They're real nice about it. They're still super charming. You know? It's funny. You don't usually walk out of a case like this in love with the prosecution and thinking the defense, it's a mess. Not gonna lie. I don't even know. I know Elaine's name. I don't know the lead male defense lawyer's name. I'm just gonna call him like dude because he's a freaking jackhole most of the time. Yeah. You should be held accountable for actions. Yes. Ooh, yay, diagnosis. Whoever's getting diagnosed in here. I'm trying to get mine too. Don't, it's tough. Okay, so we're all on board. We're all on the same ship. That's kind of what I wanted. So let me just look. Rottenborn, yeah. How can I forget Mr. Rottenborn? So I have a few just like notes of stuff I wanted to make sure I highlighted. So we talked about an overview, right? Are we all kind of like on the same page about like what exactly happened? Are there any like gaping plot holes I'm leaving out? We're trying to do an overview, trying to do a glaze over, not necessarily every detail. Yeah, Rottenborn and I don't remember Elaine's last name. I never saw it spelled, and hearing it, I feel like I heard it pronounced several different ways. Oh. Well, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, some of this stuff I've already touched on, but some of it I have not yet. So, a couple things I want to make sure I get to is Amber and Johnny's statements kind of in reaction to the verdict. And also, I think let's look. Oh, Bredehoft, thank you. That sounds like verbally what it was. Mm-hmm. Rottenborn 1 and Rottenborn 2. Yeah. Okay. So just for the sake of completeness here, hello. Hi, sorry, I'm talking to my computer. Can you scoot? I'm trying to scoot you. Scoot? Okay. So there were 3 statements that Amber made in the 2018 article that were at under fire, I guess, on trial. There was only like one that I wasn't really sure how the jury was going to decide. Basically, I'm giving you like what I thought was going to happen with the trial versus what actually happened. So I thought the headline title that was up for debate, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. That one I knew was going to be defamation. Like that was going to be checkmark. Yes, that's defamation because of sexual violence. That term, excuse me, there's no, like, other than Amber's testimony, which is mostly not backed up by the evidence that exists, there's no evidence supporting that. So for her to say that and make it clear multiple times in the article that she's speaking about her relationship with Johnny Depp, that's defamation. So check mark. I kind of knew that one was going to be in the bag. The second one, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. There were 2 phrases of note there. The first one being 2 years ago. That's the phrase that her lawyers said, hey, maybe don't put that in there. And she was like, can I please? Because the lawyers knew 2 years ago, everyone was going to know, everyone who knew anything about them, everybody in the industry was going to know 2 years ago she was dating or married to Johnny Depp. And 2 years ago, what happened? She emerged from the courthouse after getting a restraining order with a bruise on her face. Very, picturesque moment. So everyone was going to be able to make that connection. The fact that she, despite her lawyers saying, don't say that, said, can I pretty please? That indicates to me the actual malice, which is one of the requirements that you need to meet in order for a statement to be defamation. It needs to be false. It needs to be made with knowledge that it's false. It needs to be malicious, meaning you have to define it. You have to prove actual malice. So there's 7 qualifications. I don't know all of them, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But she asked to put in that thing that made it really specifically linked to Johnny. So you kind of get what you ask for there. But then even if she didn't have that phrase, if she had the more sanitized version, which used to be after, I think the other version had been, after successfully getting a restraining order, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse. It was something approximately about that. And I went back and forth in my head about this a bit because of the word became. So she writes, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse and blah, blah, blah. In my head, I was like, well, regardless of whether or not it was true that she was being abused, you can still become a public figure of something without it being true about you. Politicians do this all the time. They say they're gonna do a bunch of stuff that they don't actually do. They become a public face of this or a public figure representing this, even if they don't actually do that. So I was thinking there could be a case to be made for everybody around her lifting her up as this thing, regardless of if it was true or if she thought it was true. But then I saw, the wording, I became a public figure. Became implies other people making you into that thing. But that's not what happened here. Because 2 years ago, she went to get the restraining order, even though Johnny was in another continent and would be for weeks, if not months, because he was on tour. She also, according to the TMZ witness, set up TMZ paparazzi to catch her coming out of the courthouse with that bruise on her face from being hit. According to her, she was hit 6 days ago. So if you know about how bruises work, if you know about how setting up that whole scene looks, that was by her own design. That was by her own doing. She made herself a public figure representing domestic abuse. She didn't become one. She didn't magically wake up one day and found a sash around her chest that said, "Surprise, you are now Miss Domestic Abuse." Like in a no, she made that story for herself. So I can absolutely see the defamation there. The second half of the sentence, feeling the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out, it doesn't really matter because the first half of the sentence is defamation. So, defamation. The third one, I really wasn't sure if she was going to get, if Johnny was going to win on that statement. I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. I think that's another thing where, you can see that as a journalist, you can see that as a politician or as a staffer, you can see that as, someone who just watches a lot of news, or you can see that as an abuse accuser. I think that statement is more vague and a little bit more debatable, so I wasn't sure how that one was going to go. However, again, because that statement is not in isolation, because of everything else in the article, and because of the context where protecting men accused of abuse, she was the one accusing a particular man that was identified in a subtle way, but was identified in the article of abuse. You can't have the other two count as defamation and not have the third one count as defamation. So yeah, I feel like that case was the strongest one. The counterclaim about the lawyer's statements and the defamation toward Amber was definitely a rockier case because of the connection between the statements made by Adam Waldman and Johnny, directing him to make those statements, or was he speaking on Johnny's behalf? And that's why, Amber lost most of those. She had 3 statements she was counterclaiming for, and she lost 2 of them. But the one that she won for, I completely understand why she won for that. There are several statements that Adam Waldman made to various media sources, so I don't know all of, I have a list of 4 or 5 statements here, so I'm not sure exactly which ones are the ones in question, but I know the one that she won the claim for was this one. So Adam Waldman said in 2019-ish or 2020. Sometime in 2020. He tells some media outlet, "Quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax." And he's talking about a specific instance here, a specific event. They set Mr. Depp up, they being Amber Heard and her friends. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their stories straight under the direction of a lawyer and publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. So, one of the big things about defamation is you have to prove that the thing that you said was true. If it's false, then by default, it's defamation. Or it could be considered defamation. And with that, there was no way that they could prove that that was true. You know, in a sense, in a way, it was kind of true. The idea of it being a hoax, the idea of the abuse not being real, but with all of that detail, all of those specifics, it's real. Like, I can see why they won that one, especially because if the standard, and I don't know, I'm no lawyer, I'm no doctor, I'm no expert, but I'm just thinking, you know, if I was a jury, if you have to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt, which I'm not sure if that's even what the standard is, but that's just what I think it is. I feel pretty well that it is. There is a lot of ways to doubt this statement being accurate, you know? And because one of the big things about defamation is it a true statement? Because if it's true, then it's not defamation. If it's false, then it lines up with being defamation. Yeah, that's what I meant to say before. My apologies. Yeah. So if it's false, it's not automatically defamation. There are 7 standards you have to meet in Virginia. But if it's true, then you pretty much have made it not defamation. Anyway. The specifics that he goes through, the idea that they got their stories straight under the direction of a lawyer and a publicist, even the fact that they placed a second call to 911, there possibly were 2 calls made to 911, one from IO and another from Rocky, I think, but it's not clear how that happened, what the timeline was. There's just way too much cloudiness to be able to say in these specifics, this is what happened. If you're going to say this level of stuff, you have to preface the whole thing with, this is my theory, or this is my hypothesis, or in my opinion, or here's what I think might have happened, you know? But to say quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax, and to speak with such confidence about, you know, setting up such an elaborate scheme, that I can absolutely see why that would be defamatory. And again, it's one of those things where, like, no, Johnny didn't say this out of his mouth. But because Adam Waldman was Johnny's attorney, because very often attorneys speak on behalf of their clients, even if I was saying it like this to my boyfriend before. Reading that statement in an article, right? The 9 or 11 people on the jury individually might not look at that and think, oh, I bet that guy's speaking on behalf of Johnny. Like, that's what Johnny Depp thinks. But I think a lot of people would think that, looking at Johnny Depp's lawyer saying a statement about Johnny Depp's case. You know? So I think there's enough cloudiness around this whole statement that I can see why that's the one that they found in favor of defamation. But so this is kind of how I thought it was going to go, where, like, Johnny was going to win his case and Amber, the counterclaim was going to be much more up for debate, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But I'm very pleasantly surprised and happy, because a lot of times I look at stuff with a very optimistic, like, oh boy, in a perfect world, this would happen, and then it doesn't actually happen that way. But it did this time. Johnny actually won. And I think that's a really big... This is a milestone case, in my opinion. Like, what makes this worth talking about is the destigmatization and the attention that it brings to male victims of domestic violence. And I think that there's a lot of like, oh, why should I give a shit about this case when the world is on fire? And like, I get that. I do, because I'm also grieving the many terrible things that are going on in the world right now. But I can also see a diamond in the rough, which is the outcome of this case. And even if the outcome wasn't this, even if the outcome ended up being, pro Amber and Johnny had to live with this, I think it still would have been worth watching. It still would have been worth doing, because his goal was to get the truth out. And he did. And no matter what, I feel so much better having heard from him the way that we have. Even knowing, that there are some skeletons in his closet, I'd still rather know that about him than, like, have this mysterious cloud around him, and I think that was his whole goal from the start. So either way, he was going to win, but this is the win that we all wanted. I'm going to look again at the chat, because you all are saying a lot, and I love it. Ooh. Oh, thank you, Stacey Ann. For civil, it's preponderance of the evidence. More evidence than not. It's a much less high threshold than beyond a reasonable doubt. Ooh. Thank you, Stacey Ann. Ooh. Can you imagine what the jury was like when they were finally able to talk? This was a short jury. Like, they flipped around a verdict faster than I thought they would. So it seemed like the message the jury is sending was that they both acted in ways to each other that could be considered abusive, but the degree of abuse and damage it caused was worse to Depp. But because they both were cruel at times to each other, they both were being defamatory. IDK, that's my take. So let's talk about the message the jury is sending. Because again, this fucking Rottenborn, fucking jackhole. All right, here's what I think happened. I think Amber lied to her lawyers because nothing that she says, very little that she says, lines up with the available evidence, okay? So she fucking lied to her lawyers. And because I realized this as I was re-watching Johnny and Amber's testimonies after hearing everybody else's testimonies and depositions. The second time listening through, I was listening to the questions and everything that they said. I was like, oh, Amber said that happened. So that's why this lawyer asked that question about clothing in the tub. And Johnny is like, no, I don't know what you're talking about with Amber's clothes in the tub and paint on her clothes, because it didn't fucking happen. So what I think happened is throughout the trial, it became clear that the evidence was in support of Johnny's storytelling, not Amber's. They figured out way too fucking late that Amber had fucking lied to them, but by then they were in too deep. They couldn't, they couldn't back out then. So then they start, instead of making the case be about what it's about, which is Amber being, was Amber telling the truth or not? Was Amber, the reason that they went through all of this long, detailed story about their relationship was because in terms of defamation, right? Proving if something that was said was true or not is a big deal. So when Amber says, I was abused, or I became a figurehead for victims of abuse or whatever, whether or not she was abused is an important thing to nail down the truth of. So rather than making it about the truth of whether or not Johnny abused Amber, and therefore the truth of the statements that were made to that effect, it became about guilting the jury and saying, if, don't just think about this case, think about the implications of what it says to everybody, when that is not their job. That is not the jury's fucking job, to make a big symbolic gesture toward all of society, okay? And I was so fucking pissed because Rottenborn has been going off this whole fucking trial about Ben Chew, who's one of Johnny Depp's lawyers, and Rottenborn is an Amber Heard lawyer, just for anybody. Anytime Ben Chew got up to make a motion or to do any kind of larger statement, like the opening arguments, the closing arguments, but also when they made motions and when they had any chance to like speak for a period of time from their own opinion and summarize things and stuff, Ben Chew would get up and talk, and then Rottenborn would get up and be like, well, the other side might be talking to an audience outside of this room, but I'm here talking to the court today and looking at the facts and the evidence, whatever. But he was like digging Ben Chew for making an appeal to the cameras, basically saying he was performing for the cameras and for the larger audience on the internet, not necessarily for not talking to the court code for the judge. And instead of making a case to the judge, he was trying to influence the larger conversation outside, okay? And then we come down to closing arguments, and Mr. I'm sticking to the facts, and I'm not talking to the cameras and the internet, goes, oh, you have to think about, let me just find it, because I quoted it because I was so angry. That the message of this, the jury has to think about the message that their verdict sends to every victim of domestic abuse everywhere. Do they? Do they, Mr. Rottenborn? Since when are we talking to the cameras? Since when are we talking to an outside audience? I thought we were having a trial in the four walls of that room in Virginia. So this motherfucker has people convinced, has the jury convinced, has himself convinced that this is not a case about Amber Heard. It's a case about all victims and all women everywhere. And in a way, like, it kind of is, in the sense that, like, it's a big deal for male victims of domestic violence to have somebody like loudly and proudly stand up there and say, yeah, I was freaking abused by my lady, my chosen other, as Johnny would say. But the shallowness, the surface levelness of his take at the end of this 6 weeks of ridiculous, complicated, like toxic, like nothing is simple about this case, okay? So to have him stand up there at the end and try to make this into a Me Too moment and like a feminism, like believe women, believe victims, when like, no, not when there are facts and evidence that point in the completely opposite direction of what the woman is saying. Feminism is not blind. Feminism is not stupid. Feminism is not anti-science, anti-fact, okay? In my opinion, if feminism is a code word for equality, then Johnny's win in this case is feminism at its core. It is not feminism. Sorry. it is feminist to look at clear evidence of a woman abusing a man, agree with that evidence, and hold her accountable for her actions. That is not anti-feminist. To just use your brain, use your common sense. Rotten boy. So, to speak to the chat message, I don't think it's a good idea to, most of the time, try to extrapolate larger, like, what's the jury saying about these people because of their verdict. That's not their job. That's entirely not their job. And I think that this, there was a good point that a legal commentator made. This jury acted with nuance, and they acted with specificity by going point by point through Johnny's claims. Yes, they let him win, but it wasn't a complete win for Johnny and a complete win for Amber. They did partial with Amber. It's evidence that they went point by point through her claims and said, well, she was wrong on this one, but she was right on this one. You know, like, they're not, it's not their job to send poetic, symbolic messages with their rulings. That's not part of the jury instructions, and especially, you know, in a court of law of all places, things are very literal. Things are very specific about what the role of the jury is. And I am hesitant to assign grander meaning to the jury's verdict. I can assign grander meaning to the trial as a whole. I think that Johnny coming forward and putting his life, good, bad, and ugly, out for everybody to see for the sake of pursuing truth and the sake of telling his story that he has not had the chance to tell, and running the risk of a lot of what is happening where people are not watching 6 weeks of 8 hours a day testimony and deposition about what happened in this case. So people are not informed. So people are maybe catching a clip here and there and coming to an opinion. If you do that with Johnny Depp, you could come to a real bad opinion about him. But when you look at him in the full context of himself and of everything that he's testified to, everything that all of his friends and coworkers and all of these people who came to his aid have testified to about him, nobody has a bad thing to say about Johnny Depp except for Amber Heard and a couple of people who Johnny Depp fired over the phone. But everybody else has really nice things to say about Johnny Depp. And even the people who are no longer friends with him, used to be friends with him, they still have no ill will toward him. One of their, agents said that, it's not, it was admirable for him to take that risk. It was, I saw somebody in one of the articles referred to it as a murder-suicide, but I don't think that that's an appropriate way, again, to talk about this case. I think, again, it's an action of self-defense in the face of his abuser. And at a certain point, that's all he could do, As opposed to fucking Rottenborn trying to treat the jury like they're fucking stupid and like they haven't been sitting there for 6 weeks listening to all of this very nuanced shit and trying to say, oh, if you don't rule in favor of Amber, then you're setting women back. And that's Amber's statement in reaction to all of this, which is freaking frustrating. Yeah. I don't think society will change so much because of Amber Heard or this trial. Here's hoping that it'll be a little bit easier for guys to come forward, but I get you. Oh, I will leave the live stream up. Somebody asked. I will leave the live stream up. Ooh, yes. Okay. Watching Amber Heard was hard because she tried the same tactics, the gaslighting and mimicking empathy. Yes, she did a lot of mimicking. Just in case anybody's unfamiliar, I don't know if I've talked about this much. I went to school for musical theater. I've been acting since I was little. And Amber sure put on a show. She my freshman year of college, I had an acting teacher who talked about schmackting. There's acting and there's schmackting. And the definition of acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And when you are... Oh, sorry, I'm going to get distracted again. I need to put something up. When you are acting, you are putting yourself under... it's a big mind trick. You're putting yourself under the imaginary circumstances of a character. What time period do they live in? What social status are they? What kind of clothes are they wearing? What kind of smells are around them? You put them in the environment, you put them in the society, you put them in, what's their relationship like with the person that they're talking to in the scene. You think about all those things, you put yourself there, and then under those circumstances, if you were that person living under those circumstances, what would be true to you in that moment? And having that be your starting point and like the place that you work from as an actor. Okay, so that's acting. And then my teacher would talk about schmackting, which is when you feel like you're really acting really hard. And that's where, like, the best way I can describe it is like, this is what I think this person is supposed to sound like when they're saying these words. So I'm gonna say it the way I think they should sound. But not, that's where you get stuff like what Amber was doing on the stand. She's like, I think somebody who was saying this would be really sad, so I'm going to sound really sad while I tell this story. Or like, I think that the person describing this event would start to cry, so I'm going to do my crying voice, but no tears are going to come out. I've seen a lot of schmackting in my day, and I think Amber was schmackting up on the bench, and I hate to say it. I don't like to assume that, but again, it's the contrast between how she behaved on the bench. On the bench? Is that the judge is on the bench? I don't know. On the witness stand. Yeah, how she behaved on the witness stand versus how she behaved in the recordings, especially the ones when she didn't know that she was being recorded, because people have their acting voice too, and you could hear it in certain recordings, like the one that she sent to TMZ, the video of him banging the cabinets. She put on her acting voice once she started the recording. She goes, what's wrong? What happened? Is everything okay? Like, that's her acting voice or whatever. And then at the end, after he's like, oh, you're fucking recording me or whatever, and he like tosses her camera over there. And she's like, yeah, I thought something was wrong. You were banging shit. Her real voice came out. Did you notice that? Her voice changed because she started being truthful to how she felt in the moment. So, and the thing is, like, I can put it in those acting terms, and it makes sense to me in that way, but you don't have to be an experienced actor to notice those changes, I can put it to words because of the vocabulary that I have with studying acting, but also, a a random person who maybe hasn't gone to college for acting can hear the change in her voice and say, she sounds insincere. She sounds like she's mimicking, one of you said in the chat. She doesn't sound real. And it's true. And a lot of what she said on the witness stand, she didn't sound real. She didn't sound sincere. She had all the hallmarks of what you think she's supposed to sound like when she's telling this story. But it was like separated from truth in some way. And it's something you can't put your finger on. And the court record won't reflect that because, like I said, court is very literal. It's very black and white. It's very, there's nuance when you're there in person, but when you're just looking at a transcript, there's not a lot of room for nuance. So tone of voice can't really be communicated, but people know sincerity when they hear it. And I think that that's a big reason why she lost this case. She wasn't being sincere. And I think it was really obvious to people. And especially, going back to Dr. Curry, Dr. Curry talked about how some of the tests that Dr. Hughes, who's another psychologist, Dr. Hughes also evaluated Amber, and she gave Amber different tests. Dr. Hughes was hired by Amber. Dr. Curry was hired by Johnny Depp. Dr. Hughes is very credentialed, but I do agree with Dr. Curry's criticisms of Dr. Hughes. Dr. Curry is younger and fresher in her career, and so while she's not as credentialed, I think that she's also not as lazy and not as, what happens when you've just been working in a career for a really long time and you feel like you know everything, so you don't feel like you need to stay on top of shit and stay on top of your own education and your own, making sure that you do actually know what you're talking about, and that you're with the most updated stuff. So anyway, one of the things that Dr. Hughes, multiple of the tests that Dr. Hughes gave to Amber were these assessment checklists, and Dr. Curry talks much more eloquently than I can about the fallacies of using those types of checklists. One of them was a PTSD checklist that I actually see because I work in a healthcare facility and we work with patients who have PTSD. We work with veterans in one of our departments. And I do a lot of paperwork. I like data entry paperwork. So I see this PTSD checklist every now and then. And it quite literally is, just like Dr. Curry talked about, it's 17 or 19 or 20 items, and it's a bunch of symptoms of PTSD, and then there's a scale between 1 and 5 of how severely you feel that symptom. And you go down the list and you check where your severity is. It's a self-reporting tool. And what Dr. Curry, she was concerned about a lot of things, but one of the things she was concerned about was when you give somebody a checklist of, these are all the symptoms of PTSD, it's a really easy way to teach them how to pretend to have PTSD. And when you're somebody who, like Amber in this moment, might feel incentivized to pretend to have PTSD, and who has shown signs of malingering, which is trying to trick the test to make it show different results than those which are actually true to you. That's not the type of person that I would choose to give a checklist to, as opposed to a different type of assessment if I had the option or the opportunity to do a different type of assessment. So, bringing it back around to acting and schmackting and stuff, it sounds like it's exactly the type of tool that a schmackter would love. Because it's like, these are all the things that you need to pretend are happening. You need to pretend, like PTSD involves flashbacks. And Amber, and trauma victims, certain things that kind of everybody knows are like hallmarks of trauma, like where people describe experiences where they're in the moment physically, but mentally they go somewhere else. And Amber talked about it very much that way. Or she would say, like, all I could see was the dirty carpet, and I was wondering why the carpet was so dirty, and I had never noticed that before. And like that kind of stuff, which you're like, it's almost so perfectly, exactly what people describe going through that it's like, I almost feel like it's not real, because it's what you think you're supposed to experience when you're having trauma, but it doesn't feel like it comes from a true place of true experience that she's actually had. So it's like, I think there was a lot of malingering on the stand of trying to come off like, trying really hard to come off a certain way. And I don't think it was successful. So yeah. Oh, there was a lot of, somebody asks, didn't she say she had all the symptoms and that usually didn't happen? There was, kind of, because there was one particular test that, it was a test that Dr. Curry gave her. And some of the symptoms that were listed on that test, which I don't think was the same PTSD checklist that Amber was given by Dr. Hughes that I recognized, but it was a different one. And on that other one, it did list real symptoms of PTSD, but it also listed some that were not real. And Amber was saying that she experienced all of them. So that's the one where it was weird that she had experienced all of them, because even, combat veterans with the most severe PTSD would not check off those ones that they had not experienced. Yeah, Dr. Curry seemed more transparent. The thing with this trial is it was court ordered to be evaluated. Yeah. Amber Heard was court ordered to be evaluated, and Amber Heard's team asked twice for Depp to be evaluated, and the judge dismissed it both times. I thought that was odd too, to be honest. Like, I'm not really sure why. Why not? Like, I would love, I'm going to say something silly, but I wouldn't mind going to court over something if it meant I get a free in-depth psychological evaluation. You know how expensive those are? Money's not an obstacle for them, but my God, I would love a complete psychological eval. Give me a brain scan. God, I want to figure out what's going on in here. Okay, I want to... Ooh, yes, cutting corners. Amen. I'm just scrolling back through a little bit, just seeing what y'all are up to, what you're saying. I've been watching content from actual survivors. Yes. Who say that they see their abuser in Amber Heard. I really don't think this will keep survivors from coming forward. I personally think it might have the opposite effect. At least I hope that is what happens. That's a good point. Like, well, it's interesting because I wonder if the fact that this trial is so public and televised makes a difference with abusers trying to flip the script. Like, maybe it's more clear that she's trying to flip the script because there's added pressure of her being on TV. Whereas in that other trial that she was on, they had a clip of it in this trial where it was years ago. She had like long, straight blonde hair, and she was wearing a white shirt, and she had a blue background she was sitting in front of. And she was like eating chips or some shit. And I thought that was so weird. It was court, but it was like at a table. Everybody was sitting at a table in like folding chairs in a blue room. I was like, what the fuck? What is this? Is this a courtroom, or is this like the side meeting at like a church, like rec site, like closet? Like, what is this? Anyway, so they, she was, I think that was the trial. She had an ex-partner that she hit, or like there was something going on with that partner, and I think that was the trial that was where they pulled that clip from, where smooth Amber was talking about that she didn't want Johnny to find out about the restraining order that she had ordered from anybody other than her. And she was saying, like, I wanted to be the one to tell Johnny about the restraining order. I didn't want him to find out from anybody other than me verbally, because TMZ had been alerted. She went to do this, like, oh, but then she realized, oh, wait, that's a giveaway. So she, like, rubbed her face, like, multiple times and, like, back into her hair like this. And as a makeup wearer myself, as she claims to be, under zero circumstances am I going to rub all my makeup back off my face into my hair. It was the dumbest thing. And then Camille played the clip, and she brought it up in court. And Amber she was like, you slipped up there, didn't you, Miss Heard? And Amber was like, no, I wasn't talking about that. So yeah, okay, Amber. That's a very natural gesture that you just did. Yeah, okay. So what I'm trying to say is, like, in that trial that clip is from, there's videos of it on YouTube. You can find them. She's the ass, okay? She's not trying to do this whole play the victim shit. She's much more aggressive, and she's much more trying to, like, disprove the other person. And I think that, like, I think it's an interesting point of, like, would it have the opposite effect of, like, rather than encouraging victims to come forward, which is not a bad effect for it to have, but, like, it would be more that it prevents, like, fakers from coming forward and saying they're being abused. I don't know, because when you're on TV, everything is different, you know? And when you're a big deal celebrity that I didn't hear of, I didn't know who she was before this trial, to be honest. I didn't see Aquaman. I had heard her name a couple times, but, yeah, I think that the cameras made a big difference in the trial. And that's why I think that Johnny did it televised, because I think he knew that Amber wants to put on a face. Anyway, that was a long answer to your comment, but that's just how I talk. Yes, Moxie, the testimony she gave in the UK trial was really telling. She had no filter. She wasn't trying to put on a show or pretend. Yeah. Yep. Domestic abusers use charm and charisma to make others doubt the victim. They're so sweet in public while monsters in private. And I feel like that's That's the dichotomy that Amber also was trying to portray about Johnny, because she would say similar things about, like, everybody loves him. He would go charm everybody. The incident in Hicksville, she was talking about how he would go, they had this fight in the trailer, and he talked to the manager and just charmed him, and it was so easy. And she was like, but we just had this big fight, and I was one wall sconce got broken, my life was over. Oh wait, someone gave me $2? Wait. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. Weipo article was classic Darvo. Agree. You know what else is fucking Darvo? Has anybody seen that Vice article going around about how we're all failing Amber Heard right now? Guys, I don't love the excessive online abuse, but there's a difference between online abuse and criticism because you're a fucking abuser and you're being found out and exposed for who you truly are. I don't agree with people saying I want to microwave your baby, but I also don't think that that's a serious or literal statement. I don't think anyone's threatening. I don't know. It's just like, it's the type of thing of like, it's a... Sorry, I got distracted. If she, it's again, it's like, if she was a real victim, I would absolutely be on board with the idea of like, yes, don't assault her verbally online. But it's so obvious to everybody that she's faking this shit, man. Like, I have a lot less sympathy. I'm not saying it's appropriate for everybody to talk to victims that way, but yeah, I had to unfollow Vice because of their hot takes on this trial. Yeah. Ooh. I have seen Aquaman and it ruined it for me. That's the thing. I feel like now I can't watch Aquaman because now I know who she is and I don't care to find out more. Okay. I want to know if it was a mental health issue that made her record so much of their lives together. That was the strangest part to me. I think... Oh. Yes, Grumpy Cakes, yes. As far as the as far as the recording, Johnny was the first one, according to Johnny at least. Johnny was the first one to record for the same reason. Amber does so much echoing of what Johnny says. It's so fucking annoying. So, because Johnny said that he was the first one to record something that happened in their relationship because the next day she would forget what she had said to him, some awful thing that she had said to him. So he wanted to have it so that he could say, no, listen, this is what you said. And I believe, that people with, I have memory problems in general, so I fully believe that people can forget stuff that they say, even if it's not in an argument, but especially if it's in an argument, if it's in the heat of anger, if you feel like you're trying to prove a point, and sometimes, people, for the sake of being right, end up being mean, and sometimes it's not worth it. But anyway, so I think that he opened that door, and she... took advantage of it. I think that probably didn't occur to her to do that until he had done it. And then she ended up collecting all this stuff and it became a weapon for her abuse, I think. Especially because, like Camille pointed out, because of the moments that she chose to record, that she would later, she made herself into a victim of his detox. A detox is one of the toughest things you can put your body through. Of course, you're not going to act fucking normal because your body is like your brain is rewiring itself. And she really tried to make it all about herself and what Johnny was doing to her. Basically just like being occasionally rude while he was fucking detoxing. Are you fucking joking me? Hi, your brain is rewriting itself. Your body is going through somersaults constant. Like, it's fucking awful. She made herself the victim of his detox. She took pictures of him when he was on the nod. He wasn't doing anything to her. He was falling asleep on the couch, you know? The airplane clip where he was like moaning, the way this is what I don't fucking get, man. The way that she tells that story, he was angry at her because he was assuming that she had been having an affair with someone she was filming with, and he like got up in her face and was like, so who is it? Or no. Sorry, I'm telling this wrong. I think it's first of all, there were 2 plane rides. So now I'm confused. There was one plane. Oh, wait. No, sorry. Yeah. There was one plane ride with the flight attendant in MDMA, and they both did MDMA on the plane, and they gave some to the flight attendant, according to her. Johnny didn't say anything about this instance, so I don't know what the truth is. And then the flight attendant, which no flight attendant would accept a drug from a passenger, even if it is Johnny Depp. Because you have to have your wits about you in case the fucking plane starts to go down. It's a flight attendant. Anyway, it's incredibly unprofessional if that is what she did, but I highly, like, I don't believe this story is true. But anyway, so, again, this is Amber's telling of the story. The flight attendant was feeling the effects of the drug, and she was starting to get, like, not necessarily tired, but, like, touchy-feely and happy. And so, like, she sat down and she started to, like, cuddle with Amber for God knows why. And then Johnny Depp, like, threatened her. And then Amber was like, hey, that's not nice. And then, I don't know, some shit happened. I don't know. That's the time when he started, like, moaning like that. And she said, oh, he's howling like an animal here. When, like, no, he's not. He's very obviously, like, just hearing it, not seeing any video along with it. You can hear he sounds disoriented. He sounds like he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what he's feeling. He doesn't sound like that's not howling like an animal. No animal sounds like that. If I'm gonna howl like an animal, I'm gonna choose an animal and I'm gonna howl like it. Like I'm gonna do a wolf howl or something. I'm not gonna go, like, what's that, a fucking cow? What is that supposed to be? Like, that's not. So she's taking these moments when he's vulnerable and trying to turn them into this shit that victimizes her in some way when like, how is that? How are you victimized by Johnny falling asleep on the nod over on the couch? How are you victimized by him going through detox? I mean, if he said something mean to you, I can understand that being upsetting, but in isolation, sure. But in the context of him going through detox, you gotta not take that personally. So that's why I say that it was a weapon for her to record stuff, and it seems like it became part of their abuse, the cycles that she's talking about Johnny going through. I don't think it was Johnny going through abusive cycles. Anyway, again, that was like a really long Oh, okay. Yeah. Didn't they tell this story twice? Thank you, Stacey Ann. Thank you. Once at the trailer park. Yeah, no, because there's two different instances where this happened, apparently. Amber's entire case was very, very confusing. The truth is usually easier to follow. Yeah, he howled when he held the dog out the window. Johnny didn't. That's what's so weird. Like, these stories, some of the ones that she's telling, Johnny didn't tell these stories. So we can't cross-reference them with a story that Johnny told, because Johnny didn't tell a story about hanging a dog out the fucking window, because that's fucking weird. That's not a thing that people do, even when they're high, you know? And I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Amber insisting on being there when Johnny was detoxing was disgusting. And that's how you know. Like, I love my boyfriend dearly. But if he wanted to go do detox by himself without me, I would say, okay, see you in a week, because God, is it awful. And that's how you know, like, with borderline personality, this need for companionship, this fear of abandonment, this cannot handle being alone, that's where it kind of becomes bad for both of you, you know? It's not just about, like, this ownership of the other person. It's also, like, the fear and discomfort of being alone. You might not even necessarily want to go be with that person while they're detoxing, but it's better than being alone. So it's like, she's got to get help. She's got to get somebody that she trusts to diagnose her with borderline so that she believes it, and like, take it seriously and treat that shit. You know, because then it can hurt you. Yeah, you know, I don't know. Yeah, but it was very a confusing trial. That's why I watched everything, because all of the different people had different pieces of the stories that they corroborated. And then watching Johnny and Amber testify a second time, it all kind of like, oh, okay, now I understand what they're saying. Now I get the story that they're trying to tell. Because it sounds like 20 different stories instead of two different sides of the same stories. And then it's easier to point out which ones is a story that only Amber is telling this story. Johnny doesn't have a version of this, so what, is she just fully making that up? What is it? Oh, yes, excessive recording can be a manipulation tactic for abusers. Sorry, I went back. Oh, yeah, love for all the LGBTQA plus brothers and sisters and NBs. Sorry, I don't know why I did that with my voice. Ew, sorry. Okay, Whitney. Whitney looked absolutely miserable. I hope she's doing okay and away from Amber's wrath. Whitney. Yeah, I feel bad for her. I think that Johnny was probably right that, like, she was kind of he didn't use this terminology, but the way that I can think about it is like someone being like the runt of the litter, kind of being like always second best, kind of. That she just carries that energy around her. BPD traits have her here. I can emphasize with her traits and how they affected her, and I really just hope she can actually accept responsibility she has for the pain she caused. Yeah. And I think that that's that's what we can ask of her. Again, it's that like intention versus impact. I don't think, I don't know. I think you have to be a really specific type of person to intend harm on somebody else. And I don't think that even Amber is that way necessarily. But when your untreated symptoms, when are very serious and they're not being treated, you have to, it becomes purposeful in a way, because if you know that you have, I'm going to say this in a really silly way. If you know that you have what are those plants with the mouths, that eat bugs or whatever? You know that you have one of those on your shoulder. And you walk around the world and you know that thing is sitting there and is always ready and willing to bite anybody that walks by. But it won't do that if you keep feeding it, candy or something. And you refuse to feed it candy. When it bites people that walk by, they have a right to be hurt and to be upset with you for not feeding it candy. You have a bag full of candy. You have access and means to continue buying more candy to feed the fucking snapping plant, apparently. I'm thinking of the Mario plants. It's not even the real type of plant in real life. But it's an analogy. We're going with it. You have the ability to keep it under control, and you're choosing not to. Then when it lashes out and bites other people, you do have to take responsibility for that. You also have to go through the process of taking care of that thing and feeding it so that it doesn't hurt people. That's kind of how, because I have mental health shit too. I don't think I have BPD traits, but I'm trying my damnedest to find a complete, evaluation, kind of like I wish I was in court, wish I could get a whole entire evaluation, scan my brain, motherfucker. I want to figure out what's going on. But I'm trying to figure out my own brain and my own traits and my own stuff. But I know I got stuff going on. So I don't say this analogy to be obtuse. I say it from my own experience. That's very much how it feels. Where sometimes your traits are like part of you and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they're controllable and sometimes they're not. But, they're always controllable or treatable in some way, even if they feel like, whether they feel like they're coming from within or whether they feel like a separate thing that's sitting on your shoulder and it kind of has a mind of its own. Either way, there's always something you can do. And when you're not doing that, then you become responsible for the results of your inaction, just as you would be responsible for the results of your action, or actions that you would purposefully take. Anyway, yeah. Feed brain Seymour. Yes, Seymour. Exactly. Little Shop of Horrors. Yes, Piranha Plant. Yes, you got it. Oh, bye, Moxie. Just thought of myself having to self-validate and reminding myself anxiety brain is lying to me so I don't assume people are hitting me. Yes, the Piranha Plant. Feed brain Seymour. Brain Seymour. Yes, exactly. Okay, so you're all on the same page. I love it. Okay. I'm going to look back at my notes and see if there's anything else that I definitely wanted to go over. There's just so much. There's so much. It's, it's been 6 weeks of a lot, we've talked a bit about kind of the evidence versus the stories that were being told. There's a lot of inconsistencies in Johnny's versus Amber's story of everything, obviously. So then you have to rely on the evidence. And the evidence in terms of recordings definitely kind of reveals Amber's true personality, as well as like her acting voice, which remains consistent with her behavior in the court. One thing I thought was really interesting too, that Amber's side didn't really address. So in the recordings, remember when I said that like Amber would mirror a lot of what Johnny said, but like she was the one with that trait or that like characteristic instead of him. So like he would say that he was always trying not to start a fight, trying to leave a fight. And then when she was testifying, she would also say that she was trying not to start a fight, trying to leave a fight when it started. So again, we have direct conflict between their testimonies there. So what do we have to rely on evidence, and in this case, we have the recordings of their conversations, of their fights at certain times. I tell you what, you never hear in the recordings Amber trying to leave a fight. You never hear in the recordings there's a couple times you hear her apologize for stuff. But you don't hear her saying, I need to take a break. Let's come back to this in a little bit. You hear Johnny saying that a lot. And she calls him out for it. She gets mad at him for trying to leave the conversation and come back. Excuse me. And thankfully I've never been in an abusive romantic relationship. I've experienced, in a way, I've experienced some version of this because the church community I grew up in was very culty and very, a much more, broad, how do I say it? Like a meta version almost of a lot of abusive partner traits, except it's your church acting on behalf of God. So and God, who is your partner, it's a lot. We'll get there another time. So abusers try to control their abusee. They try to control them. They try to own them, to have them. And that's not consistent with, so like if Johnny is the abuser in that situation where they're having an argument, Johnny would not be trying to leave. Johnny would not be saying, I need to take a break, I'm going to go and come back. Johnny would be, closing in on her and trying to get to the bottom of this with her, and maybe she'd be trying to leave. This is what I mean with, like, you have this direct conflict, and the only place you can look to figure out the truth is the recordings. And in the recordings, even that like very basic, very broad understanding of one of many characteristics of abusers, you immediately see Johnny's not doing that. Johnny isn't trying to control Amber and trying to keep her in a room when she wants to leave. We hear her saying that to him. So it's like, and she does it in a lot of different ways. Even in the recordings, sometimes she's demeaning him as a man. Sometimes she's talking about how stressed she is when he leaves. There's a part where she's talking about, like, it's killing her for him to leave. It's killing her. And I'm like, girl, because that's abusive. That's emotional manipulation. That's not that's not healthy. And I just wonder why Amber's team never addressed a lot of those recordings. Like, Johnny's team brought all those out, and Amber's team just completely went around that and found their own path that just didn't even address that. I don't know. I just thought it was weird, man. I'm gonna go back to the chat. Oh, bye, Maury. Johnny was trying to de-escalate. Oh, yeah, if somebody is made upset by the chat, you certainly don't have to watch, or you don't have to read the chat, or you don't have to watch this stream if it's upsetting you. Johnny was trying to de-escalate. I agree. Grumpy cakes. My mom was so distressed for Amber, and I'm like, okay, but it seems very accurate that he has been abused here, and is he not to be believed? Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's very, like, this is what I mean with, like, I think it's really easy to like, get a quick glance at this case and, like, just pull one or two clips from a couple places and think that you've got enough context, but there's a lot of layers here. It's very deep. It's very complicated, everything that's going on here. And it's wild. It's like, and this is another thing that made me, like, not really believe Amber. Like, I, you know, as the prosecution, Johnny went first, presented his witnesses and his case and everything. And when it was Amber's turn to get up on the stand, I was mentally preparing myself. I was like, okay, yes, I know Johnny better than I don't know either of them, but, like, I've watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't really know Amber Heard, but, you know, I got to go into this with a fresh mind, an open mind. And then she just started talking, and everything she was saying was just outside the scope of reality. Which I hate to say, because if it was any other victim, it would be such an awful thing to say. But there's nothing. I can't speak in totalitarian terms. Yeah, something like that. Definitive terms. But, like, there's very little that supports her version of the story. It's mostly, like, her own word, but not a lot of evidence. And, like, the word of maybe her pals, a couple of her pals, not all of her pals, support her, but not a lot of evidence. So, like, when she's describing the Australia incident, I want to see if anybody else picked this up. So she described Johnny doing the thing that she is purporting was supposed to have cut off his finger when he was angry. He was angry at her. He was punching the wall next to her head in her version of events multiple times because he was just so mad. And then he went from there to the vintage phone on the wall, basically, and grabbing that and hitting it. And that's when she's thinking that Or that's when she's claiming that she thinks his finger was cut off. And from there, they're only like a third of the way through the story. So much more happens after that point. Maybe they're like halfway through the story by then. So much more, I don't want to get into great details in case you haven't heard and you don't want to hear her version of events because it's upsetting. And honestly, I feel very comfortable saying most of it's not true and highly exaggerated. And it's very graphic. If you haven't heard it, don't listen to it. It's not worth it. It's not because it's not true. But, there's just crime upon crime being committed against Amber while he has a fucking stumped off finger. And this is what I don't understand is like she didn't take that into account, I guess, when she was telling the story. So because that was a night, and then the next, there's all of this other bad things happening, and then she goes to sleep, wake up the next day, he's still pissed off, and he has done all of the painting on the walls of the, with his bloody finger stump. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry if you have, I know it's graphic. I'm sorry. And then he's sitting there listening to Marilyn Manson music, hanging out, and he hasn't slept that whole night. And she's like, I'm going to call Jerry Judge because you need to go to the hospital. Whereas when Johnny tells the story, he has called or texted his doctor and like gotten medical attention within like 20 minutes of having his finger smashed off with a bottle because holy fuck, his finger was cut off. He's not waiting 12 hours through more rounds of physical whatever and writing on walls. And like, yes, the writing on walls happened, but within a very short period of time before he was whisked away to the hospital because blood loss, infection, pain, all of these reasons that if you've lost an appendage, you would not feel able or focused enough to continue with other activities. So, I don't know why nobody, like the lawyers were great, but I really I wanted them to be like, so really he did all of that with his finger cut off? He did. I just, but they were great. They really, really were. But I did just want to point that out. Because it's another one of those inconsistencies where it's like, I don't want to, oh, sorry, I got confused. Yeah, Ruben. Another person covering the case talked about the glass on the floor. How come Amber didn't have any injuries on her feet or body from that? Or pictures of them. Right. He had picked her up and threw her across the room, high enough to land on top of a table, but not just that he threw both of them together. It's hard to picture. Right. Yeah, Swoop has been doing a great job. And that's another reason, sometimes I just, I don't do my own coverage of something if somebody else is on it and they're doing a great job. I'm like, yeah, they got it. I waited until it was over. But yeah, Fabiola, sorry. The way that she tells the story, they were both incredibly hurt. The way that Amber tells the story, the amount of stamina that both of them would have had to have to just be able to do all those things, it to survive that event if everything went the way that Amber's describing, it's it's not believable. And that, that was definitely a big tip off for me, where I was like, she describes the first round of events within that event, and I'm like, well, surely that's it, right? And then she's talking about another round of something, and I'm like, well, surely that's it, right? Like, it's not the same story that Johnny is telling, but surely that's the whole story. And then it just keeps getting like more and more intense, and more keeps happening, and like this and that, and they go in that room, and they fall on that table, and they blah blah blah, and I'm like, they didn't pass out from freaking blood loss yet? Like, geez, it's been like 6 hours. What, isn't that run out of ideas yet? Like, just, we get it. He doesn't like you. What? So it just, like, it got to a point where I was like, this is a lot. It's not realistic. I mean, like, and again, like, I've never been in an abusive partner relationship. I've, thankfully never suffered that kind of like a beating before, but like, I don't think that that's how it goes. I don't know. It's just like, it's that type of thing where it's like, I don't want to doubt what people are saying. Yeah. I want Amber to be a playable character in Mortal Kombat or Tekken with how well she could take the alleged abuse. Yeah. Like, she's a champ. That's, you know what? This is something I'll point out. Oh, heroin. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, here's hoping. I hope you never have to survive a DV incident. I certainly hope the same. So one thing that I thought was interesting, Amber never admits to any violence, whereas like Johnny will. Yeah, Ruben. Johnny will admit to his shit, and like so like, for example, with the headbutt story, Johnny like stood up and like physically kind of demonstrated how he got like his arms around her to hold her back because she was trying to punch him. And he said, like, yeah, I mean, in the process of doing this, I probably, we were in close contact. It's very possible that I might have, our heads might have bumped, but it wasn't a purposeful headbutt. But he'll admit, like, yeah, I grabbed her arms. I held her back. He's not saying I never touched her. He's not saying I never laid a hand on her. He's saying he never struck her and he never committed SA against her, but he's not saying he was a completely hands-free guy, because at a certain point, if someone's flying at your face, you gotta kind of but Amber won't admit to anything, except for the one thing she admits to is when she gets to be the hero, when she thinks that Johnny is going to push her sister Whitney down the stairs, and then she runs up and hits him in the face. And she proudly is like, yes, I punched him because I was afraid he was going to punch my sister. Damn it. I was like, you can't be the hero all the time. You can't be right all the time. Johnny admits that he writes weird and he says weird things and he's ashamed of those things. And he admits that he has this drug problem and he went through rehab, and like he puts it all out there, good, bad, and ugly, but she would not have us believe anything negative about her. And the one time she decides to admit to anything physical, it's in defense of her sister as the hero. So it's just, it's these other things that when I say that it's not believable, It's that type of thing. Honestly, age sickeningly reminds me of how my birth mother treated my dad. I'm so sorry. Some of the stuff she had said, done in recordings, etc., are just exceptionally reminiscent. Yeah, the things Johnny admitted to was what made him so believable. Yes, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, it shows his character. I agree. Yeah, that's one of the like positives from this trial. Like, I don't know what the future holds career-wise for Johnny Depp. I think that Amber is probably over. But I hope that Johnny starts to get more stuff again, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that was going wrong in his career, as it would happen, lined up with the times when he, like the timeline of when he was dating Amber. And if he was having all of these problems at home and he felt like the abuse was playing into his drug abuse and, her not helping him, not supporting him in being sober, going to the detox island with him, but ending up not being particularly helpful. There was all this strife, all this stress with the person that he was trying to love. I can imagine now that he's not with her anymore, he's probably more stable. He's probably a more stable employee to hire. And I feel like he deserves to get back to it, I feel like he's redeemed himself a lot. I hope, professionally, as well as a person. Like, we get to see who he is now. There's so much about him that I know now that I never knew, and not just in the way of like his relationship with Amber, but like I had no idea he was a musician. I didn't know he was in this band. Right now, he's performing in the UK. I had no idea that he played the guitar. I heard him sing a little bit in the Into the Woods movie, but it just like didn't click in my head that like, oh, he's a lifelong musician. That's cool. So it's that kind of stuff of like, he's human, Amber doesn't really present herself in a very human way. Yeah, it's been very therapeutic and triggering listening and watching the trial, and just proves that AMAB people can come forward and be believed, which puts some of that trauma to rest, honestly. Yeah. Johnny's 2 rock shows in the UK, the last 2 nights both sold out, good, and he received standing ovations, good. Hopefully that shows the way the public wants to support him, so movie execs cast him more. I think that the public is on his side, for sure. I kind of feel, I don't know, I feel for Amber Heard fans in a way, because I feel like what she wishes, like what they wish she represented, is what I agree with. However, she does not represent that in actuality. She's unfortunately deceiving a lot of people. But the trial, the verdict the jury has spoken, and they've spoken for a lot of people. There's a reason that the public, which used to be so quick to support the woman who comes forward, saw the difference in this case and said, no, no, this is different. It's not just because Johnny Depp is a bigger star than Amber Heard. It's because Johnny Depp also has evidence and facts on his side. There's nothing anti-feminist about believing evidence and facts. Oh, the trolls. Oh, I agree. I'm worried for the heinous vitriol and backlash that it will create from the scary trolls on the internet. Yeah, I mean, there'll always be those people. That's what sucks. One of I think the Vox article that I linked in the description here, and in the media, yeah, the Vox article was talking about how like men's rights activists are jumping on this case and holding it up as like, see, yeah. But I don't really know what. There's always going to be trolls, you know? If it's a true troll and they're just there to fuck around, let them fuck around, you know? I'm much more concerned with people who genuinely believe those things that they're spouting. And if people's belief is genuine, then usually it's more able to be reasoned with. That's the thing about this case, is like, people who blindly believe Amber Heard have not watched the case. That is, like, have not watched the trial, have not watched the testimonies, and have not seen the evidence. That is my solid opinion. Oh, I get you. I'm not saying this shouldn't have happened. I'm just worried. I totally get you. And that's, that's what sucks about it. And anytime something progressive happens, there's always people who are going to raise a pitchfork about it, And it is annoying, because every time I think that, like, a younger generation is more progressive, those people come out of the corners who are like, is saying very backwards and toxic shit, and I'm like, damn it, you're still here? Get out. Where did you come from? It sucks, but I think that overall we're trending more progressive, if you will, but like, I think there's more people who are on the side of reality in this case, I guess. Yeah. Stupid people will always have something stupid to say. It's a good way to put it, Stacey Ann. Ooh. Yeah. Honestly, the case highlights the sexism against women further. Yes, that's what I was saying. Yes. E.g., AH is a woman, so it's not possible she could be an abuser. Amen. That's what I'm saying. It's not. It is feminism. It is equality to award Johnny this case. It simply is. There's nothing anti-feminist about believing Johnny. There's not. Cannot convince me otherwise on that. All right, I'm looking at my notes again just to make 100% sure, because yeah, I've talked about that. I've talked about freaking Rottenborn. I've talked about the acting. I've talked about the inconsistency. Yeah. Yeah, those are like the big things that that I thought about, I guess, reflecting on this trial. 'Cause there's so much that happened in this trial, and that got that we could cover, that we could talk about, So certainly, if there's anything else, because I'm feeling like wrapping up soon-ish. So if there's anything else that you want my opinion on, or that you want to discuss with our group here, bring it up in the chat, because I feel like I've hit all the points that I had kind of like planned and kind of thought that I wanted to talk about. But it's a very dense case. It's very thick. There's just like a lot to it. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we had a live about this, because it's not the type of thing that I feel like I could make a video about, because I would dive too deep, which is what I'm doing right now with the James Charles video that I'm working on, part 2 of my series. It got way deeper than I thought it was going to. It's important to discuss all of the different things that I have found, but God, if it ain't way bigger than I expected it was going to be. Oh, yay. This was actually so helpful to chat with y'all. It's been so stressful feeling like I'm the only one believing Depp. Do you really feel that way? See, I ended up on the part of Twitter where where everybody was pro Depp. But yeah, on Tumblr, and my mom feeling like I was bad for siding with him. No. Yeah, grumpy cakes, go grumpy cakes. Like, you're using that critical thinking. You're thinking for yourself, and that's exactly what you need to be doing. It's like I said, it's really easy to get little snippets of this case and form an opinion, but you really have to see a lot of stuff from this case to really be able to form an opinion. And like I said, I really fully believe that people who are like 100% pro Amber and have no more nuance than that have not seen all the evidence and all the testimonies and depositions. Because if you have, I think that even her lawyers by the end of it were like, oh shit, she's lying to me. And I'm really looking forward to part 2 of the James Charles video. Thank you so much. It's work in progress. I'm trying my damnedest to get it out by, well, my birthday is June 7th. I was trying to get it out before my birthday, but I don't think it's going to be finished before my birthday. But I think it will be, I will be done with my portion of the first round of editing. And then I will send it to my, I'll be done with my portion of the first round of editing before my birthday. Then I'm going to send it, all the pieces to my editor by my birthday. And then, because I just found an editor that I'm going to work with for the first time, I'm going to see what they can do. And they'll send everything back to me. And I think it should be ready by the 15th. It's going to be long. It's going to be a deep dive. But I'm trying my best to not make it be laborious. I'm seeing a question that I think is interesting. Okay. I read that she may have to file for bankruptcy because she doesn't have the money to pay him. Like, she owes $15 million, almost, and she's only worth $8 million. What do you think? So yes. So she's not, maybe birthday stream. We'll see. It's like a Tuesday night or something weird. Rottenborn. Right? Wait. Okay. Really quick, and then I will get to the money question, because the money question is being reported in a way that's funny and isn't accurate. I thought it was really telling that when redirecting Amber, Rottenborn listed all the forms of abuse she experienced but left out sexual. And that's been a big point of contention, that she's like suddenly within the past couple years started making up SA allegations that are new. But as far as the money, so yes, so the jury awarded, there's 2 different types. Okay, here's where I need to put something on screen so I don't get distracted. So there's 2 different types of payouts in a trial. One is compensation for your pain and suffering, for your loss, whatever. The other is punitive, which is as a punishment. So compensation, Johnny was awarded $10 million. Punitive, he was awarded $5 million. However, the legal cap in Virginia on punitive is $350,000. So in reality, which the jury didn't know that, the jury was allowed to choose whatever number they wanted that they felt was appropriate. And then the court just said, like, by the way, the limit's $350, so we'll just say $350. I don't know why they do it that way. I think it's kind of silly, but whatever. So what he's actually going to get is $10,350,000. He sued for $50 million, so it's a bit of a pay cut. And to be honest, I think he should have at least been awarded he was on Pirates 6, he was going to make $22.5 million or something. And then they decided to oust him from the movie. It was debatable as to whether or not it had to do with the Amber Heard stuff, but like it had to do with the Amber Heard stuff. So I thought that there was grounds to at least give him 22 and a half. But ultimately, he says 1,000 times that he's not doing it for the money. So in terms of like, what if Amber can't afford it? This is actually something that people would be a better question for Emily Baker. I saw a discussion of this on the Law and Crime Network, the YouTube channel that everybody's been posting about this. But basically it sounds like it's the type of thing where like it follows you and you have to pay it back. They said something about if a person files for bankruptcy, they could no longer have to pay it back. But I don't know if she's that poor. It might be the type of thing where she just has to pay it off over time forever until she pays it back. Because I don't think that she's bankrupt just because she's not rich enough to pay for that, you know? Because it's not like she's done making money in her life. She's talked about how much she loves to work. So she can just work and make some money and pay back Johnny. $10,350,000. You know, she loves to work. Similarly, Johnny was required to pay Amber $2 million because of the one count that she won for the defamation thing. So the way that you could look at that is she pays him 10, he pays her 2. Really, the end net result is she pays him 8. So maybe really she has $8,350,000 to pay over the next however long. Probably makes it more affordable. The damages were a mess. It was kind of funny. It felt very much like, oh my God, that's me on a jury. Because the jury came out and they were all ready to do the verdict. And then the judge was looking at the papers and she was like, hey guys, you didn't fill out the last page with the money. So then they sent the jury back for like 10 more minutes to go assign the money. It was funny. I love that. I was like, yep, that's me. If I'm on a jury, I'm going to forget like the most important part. Amber's fate was sealed as soon as she said, that's why I wrote the op-ed. Yup. Bankruptcy won't let her get out of this because of the malice and defamation. She can't excuse debt in the bankruptcy. Honestly, Amber just shot herself in both feet and a hand, because now even if she does experience an abuser, she makes it harder for herself to get justice. She cut her own vocal. Oh, that's sad to think about. Yeah. I mean, I hope she doesn't. I hope that nobody ever gets abused, you know, even people who have been abusers in the past. And it's sad because the pattern always is that people who abuse usually have been victims of abuse. So it's like, it's always sad and it's always like delicate. And that's why I say like, nobody is just like a bad person. I never want to like, just say like, oh, you suck, you know, like it's always more complicated than it seems. But yeah, it does. Yeah, she does. If it goes south for her in the future, it is because of the lies she's been telling now. Yeah. Yeah. For like final, right, exactly. They can get a cut of future revenue if she can't pay up front. Absolutely. I also worry for Amber's child. I agree. Yeah, that's a... Whew, I can't handle. Nope, can't. Because there's just so many routes to go down there. My brain can't process too many. Yeah, there you go. At least Johnny got awarded the $7 million he had to pay in the divorce, plus an extra 1.35 for this whole mess. There you go. As long as the lawyers get paid, that's what matters. I'm surprised that lawyers' fees weren't like designated to anybody. I would have imagined that Johnny would be awarded whatever award plus lawyers' fees. But he, I hope she doesn't, but it's a sad possibility, especially with her history of substance abuse. I quote you often in saying, we don't want to believe you're this way from your Creepshow video. Yeah. And that's my go-to is like everybody who thinks that cancel culture is this like riot of crowds with pitchforks and torches just waiting for the next person to go hunt. No, we don't want you to be a ass. We didn't ask for this. But because there's no YouTube police, we have to police ourselves. Hopefully as my channel evolves, I'm not going to always do these incredibly intense, incredibly like deep criminal things, but the whole point of this channel compared to my first channel, which was like a cute little like fashion and makeup channel, is like certain things just make me so emotional that I like can't not say something about what I'm seeing happen, And it's like, this isn't about feeling like I'm better than somebody else or whatever. It's about like, why are you doing this thing? You can't do this. And it's not because I'm bored. It's like the passion of like, stop. You can stop. Oh, yay. I hope it's all right that I used your Audacity bit for an animation assignment. Can you send that to me? I'm very curious what that must be like. Thank you. Yes, go for it. Cool. Aw, you guys are nice. Currently pregnant with my first baby. Can't think about it. Yeah. Yep. Oh, guys. Yeah, it's deep, but I'm glad that this trial is over and they got it wrapped up in a timely fashion. I think that the next thing is on the 24th, or by the 24th. There's going to be some kind of a meeting of the lawyers, or they're going to do, I don't know, the judge was talking about, basically to confirm the monetary damages. And oh, thank you. Yes, Mina. Yeah. Oh, my Twitter is I don't even think I have. Where is my phone? I'm not sure which username is my Twitter, because I have where? Hold on. Where did I put it? Guys, my laptop is sitting on a pile of empty boxes. So oh, there it is. Just out of view, my room is a mess. But God, if I don't keep this corner nice looking. Okay. Yeah, Mina, if you want to. Yeah. That's really nice. Thank you. Let me look at what is my actual, could you just be easy? Okay. Yeah, so my is Pretty Hippie Me, which is my fashion channel. I made the Twitter before I made this. But my is Pretty I'll type it. Yeah. Not gonna lie, I like a good typing sound. And I will put my Twitter in my description. I should be putting it. But also, like, my username right now is Hannah Needs to Yell. She, her. Oh, bye, Ruben. Thank you for dropping in. Have a good night. Or I don't know your time zone. Have a good day, good time, good life. But that's my Twitter at Susie. So yeah, you can DM me there or on Instagram or email it. My email is in my description. Email me a link or something, like this is the year 2004. We're doing good. And okay, yeah. So sorry, the lawyers have to meet one more time to like confirm the money, and they have an opportunity to lodge objections one more time. And I think that what will be interesting to see there, I could see Johnny's team making an objection to the one defamation thing that Amber won by objecting to the idea that, oh, hi, Dark Demon Queen. I think that Johnny's team could object to the idea of Adam Waldman being Johnny's agent and speaking speaking as Johnny's agent, which is an important point to prove for the defamation case. Because if Adam Waldman was just speaking as himself, then, then it wouldn't be defamation. Or certainly it wouldn't be, like, you wouldn't sue Johnny Depp for that. You would sue Adam Waldman separately for that. So I would be interested to see if that comes out as a objection. I don't know about... I could see Amber's team objecting about the title of the article, the 2018 article, because she did not write the title of that article. That was something else that I was thinking as, like, if I was going to play devil's advocate here, what would I say? Ultimately, she didn't write she didn't write a... Sorry, I got... Beep boop, you're funny, you distracted me. She didn't write the article's title on the online version, the Washington Post article. So I could see them having an objection on the defamation for that one. She did repost it though. But it was in, like, when you post a link, it has this like little preview and you don't always know what that preview is going to hold. She also didn't object to the article being called that online. So there's a discussion to be had there, you know. I believe the agency was addressed in jury instructions. I'd have to double check because I really don't understand that finding. Ooh. You mean Waldman being Johnny's agent? Yeah. Oh, bye, Kill Girly Trout. Everybody reads these Voganaut. Now that I know about these Voganaut books, I keep, she endorsed it on her Twitter. I keep seeing references to Kilgore Trout, like, everywhere I look, now that I know that these Voganaut, whatever, books exist. Anyway, I feel like the title is still indicative of her sharing details of supposed sexual abuse, with people who were capable of making the title, whether she specifically put those words to print or not, Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I see how it's defamation. I'm just saying, like, if I was Amber, if I was on her team, what objection would I bring? And I would bring that one. Even if it doesn't work, sometimes it's worth it just to try. But yeah, I don't really see any other objections they could bring, because yeah, I mean, there's not really anything else. As for like Waldman being Johnny Depp's agent, I I don't like I don't like it, and I also it's when you retain somebody. I think that was his status, was that he was retained as Johnny's lawyer. I don't know if he was actively in the middle of a case with him, but there was also that recording that leaked of like a year or two ago. This recording was specific. Yeah, Vonnegut. Yeah. This recording of Amber saying, "I did not hit you, Johnny," that whole thing. Or no, "I didn't punch you. I just hit you." Like that whole rant that she went on. That was released as a Daily Mail exclusive, I think, to the Daily Mail in like 2020. And that was apparently a meeting that Johnny was there for. Johnny and Waldman were both there for that meeting. So, like, if that's all true, then yes, that rant was terrifying. Then that whole thing, ooh, I'll get to that one in a second. Um, mm, hmm. Oh, hi. Oh, that's totally fine. Thank you, honey. Um, Yup. I don't know what I was. Now I'm getting tired. I don't know what I was saying, but y'all are smart, so I'm pretty sure that you can connect the dots between what I was saying and the end of my sentences. Uh, um. Just that, like, there's evidence of him, even though they're not in the middle of a case necessarily, still working together to do stuff that helps Johnny Depp's image. So, like, it would really have to come down to, like, let's look at his contract. Let's look at Adam Waldman's contract with Johnny Depp as evidence, but you can't do that because of attorney-client there's so much that's like you can't even look at because of attorney-client privilege in this case. So it's tough. And when you have no information, like, what are you going to do? You have to go with what you have, and what they have don't look great for Adam and therefore Johnny. It sucks. I don't like it. I'd object to the jury not being informed of evidence Amber refused to turn over despite a court order. So would that would be an objection from Johnny's team? Because they already won all their stuff. But they lost the one count for Amber, or for the one defamation count from Amber, but I don't know if there was evidence Amber would put forward that would. I'm not sure exactly what you're discussing, I guess. Give me more. Give me more, Stacey Ann. Oh, thank you, Fabiola. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, there was something else. There was something else I was thinking of. I don't know. Oh, phone records. Oh, okay. Michaela. I'm reading a Vox article saying that Amber's countersuit trial is happening later this year. So this trial wasn't for both. I'm confused. See, I wonder if that's the same. I wonder if that's the same Vox article that I found and that I linked in the description, because as far as I know, this was the trial for the countersuit because they ruled on it. So unless there's a different countersuit, but no, this has to be, maybe they pushed it up and the Vox article is out of date. I'm not sure. Yeah, I find that confusing as well. If you're talking about June 24th, that might be the thing that I was talking about, that I I didn't absorb as much information as I should have about the judge talking about that because I was just excited about the verdict. But yeah, as far as I know, this was the countersuit trial. I don't think he was acting as Johnny's agent. I don't either. But the jury had to agree that he was to find in Amber's favor. Yeah. I feel like it's loose. I feel like it could really go in a lot of different ways. And I feel like because of attorney-client privilege and because they could not, like, look at his information, they kind of had to, you know, if you only go with what you have, you have to rule in favor of the prosecution, basically. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I kind of feel like, I mean, they have a way to get out, basically, because Amber owes Johnny more money than Johnny owes Amber. So at the end of the day, it's like not a huge, and not that $2 million is nothing. Like, it's $2 million fucking dollars. But for these people, he's still making a profit, you know, out of this whole thing. So I don't know how hard they're going to fight it. But if I was Johnny, and if I was really, like, upset about that $2 million, I think I would say to Adam Waldman, hey, you owe me $2 million. And then, because lawyers tend to have money, or at least have it over time, because Adam Waldman is the one who made the statements, and it's less expensive to be like, just give me $2 million than to keep the trial going. Well, see, so the case is not against Waldman. That's a good question, John Smith. I'm wondering if Waldman can appeal the $2 million award made against him, and would he win? That's what sucks about this. It's because the court is considering Waldman an agent of Johnny Depp, speaking on Johnny Depp's behalf. Amber sued Johnny Depp because of Waldman's statements, so Johnny Depp is the one who has to pay up. Although in this case, they owe him more money. So I don't know if they're going to actually pay money that will then be returned to them, you know. But Adam Waldman can't do anything. He becomes a witness rather than the subject of the case. It's very weird. I think the only reason they found one count for Amber was to give her something so she wouldn't appeal, or to appease people who thought they were only ruling as Depp fans. I don't know. If the jury wasn't so isolated, I would agree with you, but the jury's really freaking isolated in a case like this. Like, they're not allowed, like, they wouldn't know about people's opinions about them. I think, I trust the jury a little bit more than that, especially because I appreciate the nuance in their finding. Oh, metadata from the photos on the phone. So she didn't turn over metadata. You know what I thought was weird? Okay, and I don't know a ton about tech, but so Johnny's expert, when it came to the information about the photos, was only allowed to testify about this one type of metadata, but then Amber's expert was testifying about all these different types of metadata, and I was like, excuse you? No. Why are you talking about all this shit that you kept objecting to Johnny's witness talking about? Sir or madam? Like, I don't... Yeah. So I thought that was like weird, because if the subject at hand, the topic of conversation is this one type of metadata, then so like Johnny's lawyers didn't object. Why didn't they object? Like, why do you have one expert that is only looking at one type of metadata, and you have another expert that's looking at all the types of metadata? Because obviously it's important, because obviously some photos had the saturation pushed up, and like, what the fuck? It's really weird. Oh no, Mina, that's sad. Oh, she was ordered to turn over her phone for the trial in November, and she didn't do it. They have a motion for sanctions about that, but I don't know what that outcome was. I don't know. I'll get back to that in a second. Can Amber be in trouble for lying under oath in this trial and the UK one? They would have to be able to prove that she was lying, and for a lot of her stuff, I don't think that they could, because it's so much like firsthand experiences. It would be he said, she said. Amber would say, this is what happened, and Johnny would say, no, this is what happened. And that would not be something that like a person would sue her over. That would have to be criminal court instead of civil. And I don't know how that works. I don't need to know. Right. Emily said that lying under oath is a hit or miss type of thing, and some courts just don't care if it's not criminal. Okay, so for the phone, not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of the points that the guy was making about the different versions of the photos, I totally would have made those mistakes. Like, I don't think that necessarily, like, screenshotting a photo and then, or like emailing it, or like these different things, I don't think that that's necessarily like malicious actions on the side of Amber's team. I think that's the type of shit that like novices like me I just do it without thinking. So I don't know. I think that it was I think Johnny's team really wanted to bring in a tech expert and have him be able to say, look, obviously these photos is edited, but because of the restrictions that was placed on him, he wasn't able to point out the obvious and say, look, she bumped up the freaking saturation. That's not how she actually looked. So that was frustrating to watch, at least. I don't know. Technically, she can be in trouble. Practically, it's not going to happen. Yes. Ooh. Either way, though, her not turning over her phone, not good. Oh, okay, that's smart, Stacey. See, good thing Stacey's here. I don't know shit. They were trying to, in a roundabout way, indicate that they didn't get the raw data from her phone, which they were supposed to, but they weren't allowed to say it. That's so weird, man. There's another thing that's, eye-opening and frustrating about this case being so public. You get to see the inner workings of how court happens, and God, if it ain't frustrating. Like, the rewording you have to do, the limitation, like, you can't just, like, talk about stuff. What I thought was weird was, like, different types of hearsay. Like, there was some times that it was okay for Johnny to say what he said, and and he couldn't say what other people said. There were sometimes it was okay for him only to say what other people said, but not to say what he said. And I was like, what? When? How do you know? Which one is which? Why is it this way? Yeah, it's funny. And the same, this of like, they're trying to indicate this, but they couldn't flat out say it. I'm like, shit, that's gotta be fucking obnoxious. Mountain Dew is alright. Mountain Dew I grew up on Mountain Dew. If you can't tell by my obesity, I'm joking. I wish they would have been able to show the Australia recording to the jury. Yeah. Yeah. Because it was like a 5-hour recording, she said. I don't know if it was video or audio. She said that it was a recording of like after everything had happened, and like when like Jerry Judge was around, and they were like kind of gathering everybody and going to the hospital and sending Amber away or something. So I don't really know what we would have necessarily. Well, I mean, we would have known who was there and what Johnny was saying about his finger. You know, it would have helped with the timeline a lot, probably. I don't know why they wouldn't have let us listen to that, because it seems like crucial evidence. But I don't know if that's because they didn't turn over the phone. Didn't bring up past DV arrests. Yup. Or allowed past girlfriend to testify in character until Amber slipped up and brought up Kate Moss. Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't have her ex, Tasha or Tosca. I heard it pronounced both ways. I'm very surprised that they didn't have her testify. And at the very end, they got the testimony of like the somebody working in the airport who they had this whole deposition at the end that was talking to an airport employee, or who had been at the time, saying that she saw Amber Heard like getting luggage from off the plane with her traveling companion. And that was code, apparently. I didn't know this at the time, but that was code for Tasha or Tosca and like the whole situation that happened there. And I didn't know the details of that case. But then Camille said in closing that you've heard the story of how she treated her ex-wife. And I was like, oh, that was her? The traveling companion was the ex-wife? So, yeah, it's funny how you can't just, like, say shit in court. There's a lot of, like, codes you have to know to be, like, able to understand a case sometimes. So it's intimidating. I understand why people don't want to watch these court cases, and, like, it's a lot easier to look at, you know, people's reaction videos or, like, summaries on the news or articles or something. But I've been happy that this time I've happened to have a lot of time, and I've made time to like watch all of this and absorb it. And it's nice to get a really well-rounded understanding of everything that was going on by doing so, as much as you could with all of the code understanding that you have to do. They ran out of time. Yes. That had to be a judicial ruling, probably. You can hear a lot that debunks her claims about the bottle. And is it somewhere? Is that somewhere? Maybe too prejudicial. I do like the judge. She has the same name as my dog. Cool. Yeah, prejudice is one of those concepts that I like don't get with law. I've learned a lot from watching oh yeah. um, I've learned a lot from like learning from Emily D. Baker and from watching like this trial and a couple of other like occasional court proceedings that I might catch. Um, that's crazy. The leaked audios are on YouTube. So that was leaked. That 5-hour recording was leaked. Shit. I would have a live stream just to listen to that shit. Wait. We'll see. We'll see. Um Prejudice, I don't really get like what it is. Because everything is prejudicial. Isn't that the point? Is that like you're trying to like prejudice the jury toward your side, or like bias them toward what you want them to think? Like I don't know, but I haven't looked it up either. It's just something I've thought about. I only heard them bring up that word like once or twice during the whole trial, during everything that I listened to, so it must not have been very important in this particular trial. But yeah. Maybe I will broadcast it. We'll see. On a day when we're all real bored. And I don't know. I'm glad it's over, to be honest. Like, we'll leave it be. But I do think it's very interesting if that's out there. Don't know what I'm going to do with 2 more months of bed rest without having the trial to watch all day. What do I do? Could start a Twitch channel. I don't know. Oh, I gotta go to bed. I have work in the morning. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go. Ooh, yes. Ooh, wait. If you stream that 5 hours, can you let me know? I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Yeah, I gotta go to bed, guys. But thank you so much for coming. It feels good to just like talk about this because it's been wild. It's been crazy, and I feel like justice was served, and I am happy to see that happen. It's very much a diamond in the rough right now. There's a lot going on, and God, if we didn't need a positive thing to happen. So thank you for being here, especially those who've been here the whole stream, like troopers. Thank you. I am really trying my damnedest to get the next video out by mid-June. And hold on to your hats. You're not ready for what's coming at you. Just as a warning. Thank you. I'm going to put my Twitter in the description of the stream. I'm going to leave the stream up. The chat should be saved, I hope to God. And that's, I don't know, I have like Patreon, I have Instagram, I have Twitter, I have YouTube. See ya. Oh, I also do Twitch sometimes. Sometimes I go on Twitch and I play Roller Coaster Tycoon. So if you wanna watch me build a Roller Coaster Tycoon park, hang out. I'll put that in the description as well. Anyway, thank you guys. I'll see you sometime soon. Have a good one. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.